The airport was quiet. Peaceful. The kind of silence only airports get just before dawn, soft fluorescent lights humming, glass panels cold with dew, and distant announcements echoing off high ceilings. Inside Terminal 2E at Charles de Gaulle Airport, the air was cool and sterile. Passengers sat slouched in tired chairs, headphones in, coffee cups steaming. Gate 37 was calm. No rush. No noise. Just the soft shuffle of feet and the distant beeping of cleaning machines. And among the waiting crowd sat a man in a plain black hoodie. No luggage. No entourage. No gold watch. Just a still figure, scrolling on his phone. That man was Ibrahim Traore, president of Burkina Faso. But no one noticed. Not the nearby passengers. Not the staff. Not even the airline crew. To them, he was just another African traveler heading home. And that's exactly how he wanted it. No red carpet. No cameras. No loud declarations. Just stillness. Traore had just returned from a high-level diplomatic meeting in Europe, one that could shape Africa's economic sovereignty. But now, none of that mattered. He wasn't thinking of speeches or gold deals. He was thinking of home. Of peace. Of touching Burkinabe soil again. He glanced up at the screen above the gate. Air France Flight 584 to Ouagadougou. Boarding in 25 minutes. He smiled softly and leaned back in his seat. Just a man waiting for a flight. And yet, in less than an hour, this quiet scene would ignite a storm. One that would ripple across nations. Ibrahim Traore doesn't look like power. He doesn't act like it either. No tailored suit. No designer luggage. No whispered instructions to staff. Instead, he sits quietly, his hoodie slightly wrinkled, his shoes dusty from walking. He checks the time on a modest digital watch, not a Rolex, not even a smartwatch. He blends in, by design. To him, leadership isn't about spectacle. It's about service. This is how he's always moved, low-key, grounded, anonymous. Even now, as the youngest head of state in Africa, Traore chooses to fly commercial. No private jets. No fanfare. Just a seat like everyone else. Row 2A business class. Window seat. He doesn't believe in barriers. He believes in walking among the people, hearing their stories, and staying connected to the real world, not the sanitized version presented to presidents. A nearby airport worker, pushing a cart of bottled water, walks past and slows down when Traore offers a soft "Bonjour, ça va?" The worker nods, surprised by the warmth, but keeps moving. He has no idea who he just greeted. No idea that the quiet man in front of him commands an army, negotiates with world powers, and speaks for millions. But that's how Traore likes it. Because true power doesn't need to announce itself. And in just a few moments, that truth would be tested, loudly, publicly, and without mercy. Across the terminal, a sudden shift breaks the quiet. Clicking heels. Loud voices. The sound of polished leather on tile. The gate agents glance up in unison. He's here. A well-known French CEO strides in, surrounded by assistants in crisp suits, 2 rolling briefcases, and a personal aide carrying a garment bag. He doesn't look around. He expects the room to look at him. And it does. The CEO is a powerful figure in the energy sector, a man with investments across West Africa. He's used to luxury, respect, and being the most important person in any room. In his mind, Burkina Faso is just another developing market. A place where money equals power, and skin color still decides status. He approaches the Air France desk without greeting the staff. His assistant steps forward, murmuring something about needing a seat change. The lead gate agent taps nervously on her tablet. Her brow furrows. Je suis désolé, monsieur. Business class is full. The words hit like an insult. The CEO blinks once, slowly. His lips curl. Full? For me? That can't be right. Do you know who I am? I'm a strategic partner in half your West African operations. I need my usual seat, 2A. At that very moment, Ibrahim Traore is sitting in seat 2A, unaware of the brewing entitlement storm behind him. The CEO doesn't yell. He doesn't need to. His assistants do the frowning for him. But the message is clear: make space for me. Push someone out. I don't care who. The airline staff begins whispering among themselves. They scroll through tablets, scan passenger manifests, and shuffle nervously. They know what comes next. And so, without a word to Traore, they place a call. Inside the aircraft, a senior flight attendant receives the message. She nods sharply, adjusts her uniform, and heads toward the cabin with purpose. Her name is Claire. And she's about to make a decision she'll never forget. Claire steps onto the plane with mechanical grace, heels precise, posture stiff. She's flown elite routes for years. She knows how to handle demanding passengers. Or so she thinks. She walks down the business class aisle, clipboard in hand, scanning for someone who looks movable. Then her eyes stop on him. 2A. A dark-skinned man in a black hoodie, sitting alone by the window. No designer clothes. No assistant. No important person vibe. Just quietly scrolling his phone. Claire squints. Something about the scene doesn't sit right. Not because it's suspicious, but because it's too ordinary. She leans over to a junior attendant and whispers, "Probably a mistake. He must have gotten bumped up somehow." Then she walks over to Traore, smile thin and polite, but with the sharpness of assumption in her tone. "Monsieur, may I see your boarding pass, please?" Ibrahim looks up, calm as ever. He nods and hands it to her. She studies it longer than necessary. 2A, confirmed. But that doesn't satisfy her. Something inside her refuses to believe that this man belongs in that seat. She hands the pass back with a forced smile. "Sir, we may need you to relocate to accommodate another guest. Just a small adjustment, nothing serious. We'll compensate you for the inconvenience." It's soft. It's practiced. But it's still an insult. Traore raises an eyebrow, his voice steady. "And why me?" Claire stiffens. "No reason, sir. Just an operational decision." "A guest more important than me?" he asks. She doesn't respond. The tension sits heavy between them. Other passengers shift in their seats. One glances up from a newspaper. A woman with a laptop pauses her typing. Something doesn't feel right, but no one says a word. And Traore? He just leans back in his seat and says, clearly and calmly, "No. I will remain in my seat." Claire freezes. She's not used to defiance, especially not from someone who, in her mind, doesn't look like authority. And so, the storm begins to swell. Quietly, but dangerously. Claire stands motionless for a beat, her lips pressed tight, her fingers tightening on the clipboard. She forces another smile, but this one doesn't reach her eyes. "Sir, I must insist. It's for operational reasons." Ibrahim Traore doesn't move. He doesn't argue. He simply looks her in the eyes and speaks again, calm but commanding. "Then explain the operation. Why am I being asked to move, and no one else?" She falters. There's no prepared script for that kind of clarity. She glances around. Most of the other passengers are white, well-dressed, some with laptops, some sipping complimentary champagne. She doesn't dare ask them to move. No, her eyes went straight to the black man in a hoodie. And now that man has called her out, without raising his voice, without being rude. Just facts. Just dignity. Still, she doesn't back down. "Please, sir. We're simply trying to accommodate a guest with specific needs." Ibrahim lifts an eyebrow again. "And that guest is?" She doesn't answer. Because she can't say it. She can't say, "A French CEO who thinks he's above you." She can't say, "Someone who expects you to be invisible." Other passengers are listening now. Not out loud. Not in protest. But they're watching. Feeling the shift in the air. Claire turns and walks quickly to the cockpit. She whispers to the captain. Gestures. Nods. Tension on her face. When she returns, she doesn't approach Ibrahim again. Instead, she starts targeting others. A younger black man in seat 3B. Then another in 4C. Each time with the same smile. Each time with the same fake reason. We need your seat. It's not just operational anymore. It's a pattern. It's discrimination. And Traore sees it clearly. His face remains calm. But inside, he's documenting everything. Not to shame her. Not to punish her. But because truth doesn't need rage. It only needs to be seen. And soon, the world would see everything. Claire moves like she's on autopilot, but her eyes betray her. Sharp. Scanning. Selective. She skips over the man in the tailored gray suit. Ignores the woman with the Louis Vuitton tote. Instead, she stops at the young African nurse in 5A, then the older gentleman with tribal bracelets in 4B. Her choices aren't random. They follow a pattern. One color. One assumption. Passengers start to sense it. But no one says anything. It's the kind of discrimination that doesn't shout. It whispers. It smiles. It hides behind policy and procedure, but it's loud enough for those it targets. A young man, maybe in his late 20s, looks up, confused as Claire gestures toward his seat. "Excuse me? Is something wrong?" he asks. Claire offers the same tired script. "We need your seat. There's been a change. Please cooperate." He hesitates. "Why me?" She doesn't answer. She just reaches for his boarding pass. And that's when it happens. A quiet shift. Ibrahim Traore, who's been observing in silence, finally stands. Not angry. Not loud. Just present. He steps into the aisle with a calm that carries weight. Enough. One word. Heavy with meaning. The cabin stills. A silence thicker than jet fuel. Everyone looks up now. Claire turns startled. "Sir, please sit down, don't cause a scene." Ibrahim doesn't flinch. He meets her gaze directly. "You are making decisions based on skin, not tickets. That's called discrimination." The words cut through the air like a scalpel. Claire's smile disappears. She stammers. I didn't mean, sir, you don't understand." But she's too late. Passengers are watching. Connecting the dots. One woman whispers to her seatmate. "That's our president. They don't even know who they're humiliating." Another man murmurs. "This is going to be a problem." Claire backs away slightly. Her face reddens. Her clipboard trembles. But she still doesn't get it. Not yet. Because she still thinks this is about a seat. She has no idea it's about to become a global moment. And justice is boarding next. The air inside the cabin feels thicker now, like the pressure before a thunderstorm. But Ibrahim Traore is still calm. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't wave his hands. He simply sits back down in seat 2A, buckles his belt, and folds his hands. It's the kind of silence that demands more respect than shouting ever could. Claire stands frozen near the cockpit, unsure what to do next. She's rattled. This wasn't how things were supposed to go. She's used to controlling the cabin. To people obeying, especially those she assumes have no power. But now she's been challenged. Not by aggression, but by dignity. She tries again, this time colder. "Sir, I've spoken to the captain. This is a final request. You must comply or we may delay the flight." Traore doesn't even look up. He calmly replies. "Then delay it." A few rows back, someone exhales sharply. Another passenger whispers. "Wow. The atmosphere has changed. This isn't just about one man's seat anymore. It's about something everyone in that cabin feels but doesn't say out loud. The daily decisions that tell people they don't belong." Claire turns away again, this time to regroup. She walks to the back of the plane, muttering under her breath in French. "Always making noise. These people." She doesn't realize another flight attendant hears her. She doesn't realize one of the African passengers speaks fluent French. But it doesn't matter anymore. Because the clock is ticking. And her mistake is no longer private. Outside, the CO is finally being escorted toward the plane, his face smug, his coat freshly pressed. He's laughing at something on his phone, oblivious to the tension inside. Claire breathes a sigh of relief. She thinks help has arrived. But what's really arriving is justice. And it's wearing military boots. Claire hurries to the cockpit, clipboard in hand, words tumbling from her mouth in half whispers. I'll refuse de bouger. I'll est têtu. Envie avoir de retards. He refuses to move. He's stubborn. We're going to have delays. The captain, a graying Frenchman with tired eyes, glances back. Handle it, Claire. We can't afford another complaint. Just make it look clean. She nods. But her confidence is unraveling. Meanwhile, the CO finally boards. He steps into the cabin like it's his personal property, oozing entitlement. Claire rushes over, her face suddenly warm, rehearsed. Monsieur, welcome. We're fixing the seating issue for you right now. Would you like champagne while we sort it out? He smirks and hands off his coat without a word. Behind him, passengers in economy shuffle by unnoticed. Unimportant. Claire straightens her jacket and heads back into business class, eyes scanning for a new target. Ibrahim Traore remains where he is, unmoved, calm, arms crossed lightly. She won't approach him again. Not yet. Instead, she zeroes in on another passenger, a young African man seated in 3C. He looks up, confused as Claire gestures toward his seat. You, sir. We need you to move to economy. Now, please. He blinks. Why? I paid for this seat. She doesn't answer, just holds out her hand for his boarding pass. But before the man can even respond, a voice cuts through the tension like a blade. This is enough. Everyone turns. Ibrahim is standing again. His voice isn't loud, but it carries weight. It silences even the champagne fizz. Claire turns startled again. You are now targeting passengers based on how they look, not on their tickets, he says. You've made multiple attempts to displace black travelers. That's not policy. That's prejudice. Claire's face flushes red. Sir, you're accusing me of... No, I'm observing you. And others are too. All around them, the silence grows more dangerous. Business class passengers glance sideways. Someone pulls out their phone. They're no longer pretending not to see. And Claire can feel it. Still, she tries to keep control. Sir, please don't escalate this. Just take your seat. But her voice breaks mid-sentence as she notices something out the window. A black military SUV has pulled up to the tarmac. Then another. Then 3 more. Uniformed officers begin forming a line near the bottom of the stairs. One passenger leans toward the window. Wait, is that a presidential convoy? Claire steps closer to the window. Her stomach drops. Because this is no ordinary welcome party. This is Burkina Faso's elite presidential guard. And she still doesn't know. She's been trying to evict the president of the republic. The cabin starts buzzing, softly, like bees before a swarm. Passengers lean toward the windows, drawn by the quiet formation happening outside. Black SUVs. Military trucks. Soldiers in crisp uniforms. Men standing shoulder to shoulder under the rising African sun, not flinching, not speaking, just waiting. At first, no one understands. Are we landing into a war zone? A British tourist murmurs. Looks like a full-blown operation out there. Another says, half joking. But the Burkinabe passengers don't laugh. They know. They recognize the flag emblems on the berets, the precision of the formation. This isn't security protocol. This is a state reception. Back inside the cabin, Claire stares out the window, confusion etched across her face. The CO leans over, adjusts his cuffs, and grins. Finally. Must be for me. I told you, we're involved in serious projects here. Claire chuckles nervously, still trying to keep control of the image she's curated. She's already decided she'll personally escort the CO off the plane first, Get him in front of the cameras, make him feel like royalty. Maybe even salvage the embarrassment from earlier. The plane touches down with a smooth thud. Seatbelt signs flicker off. The captain makes the usual announcement, in French and English, voice neutral. But the energy on board is anything but routine. Because what no one expects, especially not Claire, is that the first person to step onto the plane isn't airport staff. It's a tall officer in a black beret, flanked by 2 elite guards. They board with precision, boots echoing against the cabin floor. He doesn't greet anyone. He doesn't ask questions. He walks directly to seat 2A, stops, and raises his hand in salute. Monsieur le Président, welcome home. Gasps. Actual gasps. One passenger drops his phone. Another grips the seat in front of them. Claire's clipboard slips from her hands and hits the aisle with a dull thud. The CEO straightens up, blinking in disbelief. And Ibrahim Traore rises slowly from his seat. Calm. Still humble. Still quiet. But now, undeniable. He gives a small nod, acknowledging the salute. Thank you? No fanfare. No ego. Just a man standing in his truth. Claire stares at him, mouth half open. The man she tried to move. The man she questioned. The man she dismissed. The president of Burkina Faso. The cabin has gone completely still. No one is moving. No one is breathing. Claire's eyes dart between the saluting officer and the man she tried to push into economy. Her mouth is slightly open, her face drained of all color. The CEO takes a step back, confusion painted across his face. President? He stutters, voice cracking under the weight of reality. Ibrahim Traore doesn't respond immediately. He simply looks the man over, no hatred in his eyes, no need to prove anything. Then he gives him a simple nod. Not out of respect, not out of recognition. But as a reminder, you don't need to shout to be powerful. 2 more officers step onto the plane, flanking the first. One of them speaks directly to Claire. You will come with us. Claire blinks. What? Wait, me? I don't understand. The officer's voice is colder this time, absolute. You are being detained for questioning. You have disrespected the head of state on national soil. That is a serious offense. Claire looks around the cabin in disbelief, hoping someone, anyone, will defend her. But no one does. The same passengers who watched in silence as she moved down the aisle with quiet prejudice are now watching with a different silence. When that says, we saw everything. She stammers. I didn't know who he was. I thought he didn't look like. But her excuses fall flat. Because the truth is simple. You didn't need to know who he was. You just needed to treat him like a human being. The CEO's turn comes next. The officer turns to him with equal firmness. You too. Step off the aircraft. Now. What? This is outrageous. Do you know who I am? The officer doesn't flinch. Yes. A man who thought status gave him the right to displace others. That doesn't work here. Handcuffs. Not tight. Not brutal. Just deliberate. Claire's hands tremble as the cold metal wraps around her wrists. Her pride breaks louder than any words could. Ibrahim says nothing. He simply gathers his phone, nods to the passengers watching in awe, and walks toward the aircraft door. Outside, cheers can be heard faintly beyond the airport fence. Burkinabe citizens, waiting for their president, not the image, not the figurehead, but the man. And now, everyone inside the plane knows exactly who he is. And who they just tried to disrespect. The heat hits Claire like a wall as she steps off the plane, handcuffed, humiliated, and exposed. Gone is the controlled climate of business class. Gone is the false confidence. Cameras click. Voices murmur. The presidential convoy waits, still and disciplined. Claire blinks against the sun, trying to make sense of what's happening. Beside her, the French CEO walks stiffly, no longer arrogant, just embarrassed, like a man caught shoplifting in public. They're escorted to two separate black vehicles, unmarked, bulletproof, guarded. Inside, there are no threats. No shouting. Just silence. The kind that weighs heavier than any words ever could. At the terminal, President Ibrahim Traore stands before a small press gathering. No teleprompters. No applause. Just his voice. In Burkina Faso, we do not measure a man's worth by the color of his skin or the cost of his suit. We do not bow to money, and we do not tolerate the remnants of colonial arrogance. Here, we respect dignity, humanity, and truth. That is the new Africa. The reporters are quiet. No one dares interrupt him. Within hours, the story explodes online. Clips of the arrest. Footage of the military escort. Screenshots of the CEO being handcuffed. Photos of Claire, eyes wide in disbelief, being walked across the tarmac under the scorching sun. Hashtags trend across the continent. Hashtag Respect Africa. Hashtag I Stand with Burkina. Hashtag Power with Grace. Young people in Accra, Lagos, Nairobi, and Bamako share the story like wildfire. This is how we protect our dignity. No more silent discrimination. He made them regret it without even raising his voice. The French embassy makes urgent calls. Air France issues a stiff, formulaic apology. But no one buys it. Because this wasn't just about one man being disrespected. This was about a continent saying, "We see you. We remember. And we're done playing small." Back at the Ministry of Justice, Claire and the CEO are formally charged with public insult and discrimination toward the head of state, disrespect on Burkinabe soil, abuse of position, attempted coercion of airline staff, and willful humiliation based on race and perceived status. No diplomatic immunity. No special treatment. Just the law. Applied equally.